How you doing?
I'm good. I pretty sore, but I'm still alive, so that's a good thing.
Are you nervous talking with us?
No, I'm pretty excited. I'm glad you guys asked me to do this.
You sound laid back. I like the mood we got already. Yeah. I think there's
I'm enthusiastic.
There's good charisma here. I feel it between us. There's a good vibe gelling already. Because hey, let's face it, we're Canadian, and
it was just Canadian Thanksgiving last week.
That's true. I missed it, of course, as I do every year.
No, I was saying I actually forgot this year that it was Canadian Thanksgiving. I haven't celebrated one in like since 2001, so like 16 years. 16 years. Yeah,
close.
So actually probably longer because I was probably on the road. So it might have been 20 years. Who knows?
Yeah, I had no idea it was either until my wife told me that her family was having a big dinner. I'm like, why?
What's going on?
I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
It is the difference between like American Thanksgiving. You can't forget it. They don't give you a choice. I say they.
Yeah, it's a much bigger deal here, so we're probably going to celebrate the American one.
Yeah. So you said you're sore. And it stands to reason. How do you think Shane's feeling?
I'm not sure. He makes bad decisions all the time, though. So he's probably used to feeling however he's feeling right now.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of this whole storyline. I mean, I've really enjoyed the storyline with you guys. Jay and I talked about it beforehand. How you guys made it personal by bringing family in and pulling that aspect of it into it. But one of my favorite parts, it was during when he was reffing, and you said you fall out of helicopters, and that kept you down.
Yeah, a little 450 splash from AJ Styles, and that's all it needs. Maybe it's like his. I guess that's like his kryptonite now. You know what I mean?
His 450s.
Everybody's got a weakness. His is getting hit in the side with a knee from a guy that's rotating at a fast rate of speed.
So.
Go ahead.
Damn right I will go ahead, Jay, because I really enjoyed the series with AJ. Really loved the setup with you and Shane. But I mean, you got to know this. The deal with Vince, when you're out there, and we'll talk about all kinds of other stuff, but that's that and the Hell in the Cellar, kind of the initial things, right? So that headbutt. I know he said something to you right before. And I can imagine the kind of stuff that he was saying. And but you have to feel at that point like, okay, I'm about to enter a different stratosphere within this industry. Like, you got to know how big that is. Did it feel different, or did you just feel like, okay, it's about time?
Well, actually, you and I kind of had not a conversation about this a long time ago, but you saw one of our matches me and Sammy had, and you messaged us about, when you guys put stuff like that out there, there's no, it's just a matter of time. You can't be denied. Remember, I remember you messaging us that, and it meant a lot.
It was Chicago.
Yeah, it was. I think you messaged us after the second one, which was in Washington.
Oh, okay.
The point is that you had seen both, and you told us when you guys put out that kind of stuff, there's no way they're going to deny you. You can't be denied. It's just a matter of time, and that was really meaningful because we were both kind of thinking, what else do we need to do to move on to that next level? And then a month later, through coincidences and people getting hurt and stuff like that, things got reshuffled, and a month later, I was the Universal Champion. And I remember you messaged me and was like, wow, that took even less time than I thought. So, to me, I thought that was it. I'm like, all right, I'm the Universal Champion. So clearly this is just going to solidify me as a top guy that I've always wanted to be. But I don't think it really did. It turned out, it didn't turn out to be what I was hoping. It didn't turn out to be this thing that would make me a top guy, like the way I felt it would. You know what I mean? So then the whole storyline with Jericho helped me, get near where I needed to go. But then I felt like I kind of hit a little, I kind of plateaued in a way.
Yep.
You know, you said you enjoyed the series of matches with AJ, and I'm glad you did, and I'm hopefully, you know, a lot of people did as well, but I don't know if I did. I don't know if I can say that I did, to be honest. I don't know if I was putting out my best stuff at the time, and then, you know, once that ended and I transitioned into the thing with Shane, I did feel like, oh man, working with Shane is a big deal. And then Vince, you know, throwing himself into the mix, I knew that you know, that's as big as it gets. You know, not that many people get to do that with Vince, especially nowadays. You know, and if you look in the last 5-6 years, there hasn't been that many people who got to, you know, physically assault Vince in the way that I did. So obviously, I knew that was a big deal, and I did think maybe that, you know, maybe this is what I've been waiting for, and so far it feels like that was it. You know, I feel like things have kind of taken a new. I've been taken to a new level for me since that happened, and I'm going to try to run with it as good as I can.
Well, it's one of the and we were just talking about it to open this show. The one of the keys to longevity within the WWE, let alone the industry, is when maybe you're not in the best storyline, maybe you don't necessarily agree with the writing decisions, the booking decisions, whatever it is, maintaining the intensity, even when those times aren't necessarily, you know, quote unquote good, and making sure that no matter what, every night you bring it. And that's why when I saw, you know, you and Sammy in those matches you guys were having, I was like, man, okay, they got these guys in the middle of the card, but they don't care, you know. And that's not a bad thing to be in the middle of the card. You're on the card. But you guys were having matches that I knew people were going to have to sit up and take notice. And when I see that, I always got to go, okay, these guys might need to know that, because I know sometimes back there you don't hear it. Mm-hmm. You just get back and people say, hey, great match, and it's on to the next. But now, being where we are, retired and everything, you know, we can sit back and see that stuff and understand what it's like there and go, hey, man, that deserves some props that they might not be getting. So, you know, it's I'm happy to see that. Like I said, when I saw the thing with Vince, I was like, okay, he's hitting another level now, and they're going to give him an opportunity to hit that next level, because nobody, especially nowadays, since the days of Austin and DX and things like that, nobody headbutts Vince in the face and gets like color on him, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, it felt like a huge deal, and at the time, like, even doing it, you know, I was. You know, I knew something was going to happen with Vince for a couple of days beforehand. I wasn't sure what it was exactly until we ironed out everything that day. But when it happened, when I actually went through with it, it was just so surreal. You know, like, that's the thing about me, and I've said this in interviews and stuff like that, and I've told a lot of people that I never stopped being a fan of WWE. And I've been a huge fan since I was 11 years old, and that never stopped. Like, even when I started on Raw. Not even when I started on Raw. I remember my first night in NXT. Right, I was the first match on that show, on the Takeover special. Yeah. So I was right by, you know, the little gorilla position they have at the Full Sail University thing, and you know, there's a TV right there that, you know, plays the show live, obviously, and you know, the opening graphics with the then, now, forever, and you know, all the faces that flash, like Cena and you guys and Shawn and Brett and Taker and all those guys, like, you know, as the WWE logo, you know, comes into frame. I was watching that, and then the next thing is, as soon as that intro ends, it goes into the video package for the show, and the first face I saw was me, and I got insane goosebumps, because to me, I remember saying, like, holy shit, this is actually happening. You know what I mean? I was like, it's been 15 years. I was 11 years old when I started hoping this would happen one day. And then the same thing happened when I showed up on Raw for, you know, to do the thing with Cena. I remember after it happened that night, I went back to my hotel and I walked into the elevator. And the elevator was just like, the walls were mirrors. And I just walked up to the wall, and as my elevator was going down, I was just staring at myself in the mirror thinking, I can't believe this is actually happening.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
So I've never lost that. You know, I'm still a fan. Like, people will come around, like Shawn Michaels will come to to TV once in a while, and he's the reason I decided I was going to be a wrestler in the first place after seeing one of his matches. So anytime Shawn's around, like, man, I get to talk to him. We get to talk about the business. We get to talk about family and life, and it just blows my mind. I'm still just such a fan. So to get to do that with Vince McMahon, forget about it. It was incredible. It's just something I'll never, a moment in my career that I'll never forget for sure.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Sean came back in a few years ago and did, he was working some live event loops and stuff like that. And, Adam and I had gone and kind of found a little quiet, small locker room somewhere. We were just hanging out in there, and all of a sudden we see Sean's head peek in, and then he leaves, and he comes back with all his bags and stuff, and he comes in and he goes, "Oh, I was looking for you guys. He's like, I just want to come and hang out with you guys. I always get a laugh and have good conversation, you guys. So I just want to hang out with you guys." And that's like the coolest thing ever, right? Like, same thing. Like, you idolize Shawn Michaels. All of a sudden, he's like your peer and wants to hang out with you and talk about family and life and have some laughs and just goofy stuff. And it's pretty cool. But another thing that impressed me with you is obviously, we've talked about this on this podcast as well a lot in the past, as far as you can be so good in the ring, but sometimes that isn't enough. You need kind of the full package to kind of really take off and to set yourself apart, and that goes with a lot with the character and the promos in the ring and stuff like that, and having the confidence in yourself to kind of step out and say some things and do some things that might necessarily be written on a piece of paper. And I remember you and I had a conversation when you first got to the Performance Center, and you were kind of a little unsure as far as certain things, and people telling you certain things, and I don't want to go too far in depth with it, but I told you, I said, "Hey man," I said, "you got here for a reason. There was something that you were doing that got you here. Do that and do it to its fullest until they tell you not to do it."
Yeah, I remember very well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it seems to me like you very much do that. I'm not saying that it was me or anything like that, but that they gave you the confidence. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is
you're saying it was you. You're saying it was you.
I really just want to take I want to take all the credit for it. But no, it just seems to me that you very much do that in your promos and your matches and things like that. Like, you just throw things against the wall, and you have no fear sometimes of the things that you say and you do. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, I mean, you say you don't want to take too much credit, but you do deserve credit for that, because when I got to the Performance Center, I wasn't sure. So I knew who I was. I've known who I've been as a performer for a long time, but I wasn't sure when I got to the Performance Center if that's what they wanted me to be. All I know is William Regal came to a PWG show in California, saw me wrestle, and I was offered a tryout, and that whole process took a little while, like a couple months. I was under contract with Ring of Honor at the time, so I couldn't, it couldn't happen as fast as I wish it could have, obviously, but Ring of Honor let me do the tryout. I did the tryout, and they told me pretty much right then and there, not that I was going to get signed, but they kind of just said, "Hey, you might want to look into the logistics of moving your family to Florida, because you did well, and we still have some things to iron out, but it looks like you might be offered a contract." So they were very cautious not to make any promises.
Right.
But they kind of gave me the Iggy that you might want to start looking into it. So I left the Performance Center thinking, oh man, this is actually going to happen. And then 2 months went by where I didn't hear from them. I mean, not that I didn't hear. I was in touch with Canyon Seaman, who takes care of that stuff, and it was just still like, okay, yeah, it's WrestleMania season. Obviously, a lot of people are busy. We're going to get back to you soon. And then it took 2 months. Finally, they called me and said, okay, we're going to sign you. So I got to the Performance Center, a couple months later, and I still wasn't sure. I still wasn't sure who they wanted me to be, in a way, because I did the tryout. I cut the promo the way I talk. I didn't try to be anybody different when I was cutting the promo. And as far as I did a little match there, and I wrestled the match my way, except for some reason they had me. At the time I was always pretty much a heel. And they had me work as a baby face, so that kind of felt weird. Mm-hmm. So even in the match, I wasn't I wrestled my own style, but I wasn't being myself. And I had this is WWE in my head, so I'm like, I can't go in my shorts and my cutoff t-shirt. So I had like a nice singlet made, and I wrestled in the singlet, which was completely not me at that time, because I wrestled in a singlet, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it was, 12 years ago, on the independents. But then eventually I transitioned into the more like street fight looking gear, and that was definitely more me. But, in my head I was like, I can't wrestle in WWE and in street fight looking gear. So, I wasn't sure which part of the tryout they had liked. If it was the promo, which was totally me, or if they were like, no, the way he wrestled that. So I was like, my mind was just kind of playing tricks on me, because nobody's telling me anything concrete, and everybody has opinions. Everybody at the Performance Center is trying to help you in their own way, and they give you their opinion on what they think should work or what they think you should do. And then, we would have these little shows at the Performance Center in front of the other wrestlers and the coaches and stuff like that. And that's when you and I talked the night before one of those shows, and you kind of told me, look, you just got to be you. And that resonated with me. And then over time, I got to know Dusty Rhodes better. And Dusty and I got closer and closer, and Dusty echoed the same thing. So that definitely went a long way into me getting the confidence to just be me. And it's exactly like you said, if you go too far, they'll pull you back. But you don't want to,
go far enough.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be too hesitant and then not give everything you could give, because then you might be holding back something that they could love.
Yeah, I always said that I'd rather have the conversation of, hey, we need you to pull back, rather than have the conversation like, hey, we need more.
Absolutely.
Well, because here's the thing, they're probably not going to tell you we need more.
Right.
You're not going to have that conversation. You're just going to go,
what happened? Wonder why aren't we getting more out of this guy? Yeah.
Yep. And then 10 years down the road, you're going to be like, I wonder what I did wrong, or what didn't, So, when you talk about your promos, here's what I love about your promos. They don't sound like promos. They sound like a dude having a conversation. Like, you don't worry about it sounding, it doesn't sound contrived, it doesn't sound scripted. It just sounds like, if I ran into you, that's the way you would sound. And that's what I really like. It sounds so different because of that. It sounds conversational, even when you're cutting someone down or your backstage stuff. Even with awkward setups from, like, the interviewer backstage, your stuff doesn't. And that actually highlights it more, because I'm sure they're scripted and have to say a certain thing. But when you start talking, it's like, oh, okay, well, he sounds natural. Is that, do you think about that, or you just kind of do your thing?
Well, I feel like that was always one of my strengths, even when I was on the independents before I came to WWE. So I just kind of kept that going. But it was always, I've always been conscious of that, not trying to sound like I'm, reading from a script, or not trying to sound like I've obviously rehearsed this and I know exactly what I'm saying. But part of that is also, I try not to learn everything word for word, and I try to really, because obviously, every promo we do, there's a reason for it, and there's a goal, and there's something to achieve in that promo, and something that's very important to communicate. So you do have to learn, at the very least, you have to learn the reason for the promo, and make sure you deliver that, because that's important to the story you're telling. So I make sure that I know where I'm going, but I don't want to learn everything by heart, because then I feel like it's very hard not to sound like it's rehearsed.
Yeah.
But a lot of the credit for that goes to Dusty Rhodes again, because, that was always his thing. You don't want to, so we would call his class at the Performance Center, we call it promo class, but that's not what he called it. He called it communication skills. Because to him, you're not cutting a promo, you're communicating.
Yeah.
And, sometimes he would have us, sometimes he would have us cut promos, if you want to call it that, without saying a word. He was just saying, can you communicate this without talking? And that's, you know what I mean? Or like sometimes he would just change the setup. Usually it was just a bunch of chairs in front of a black curtain, by one of the rings, and we'd go up and we'd cut the promo in front of the black curtain to the audience, which was, 10, 15, 20 other wrestlers from the Performance Center. But then sometimes we'd come in for class and there would be no black curtain. Now we would be cutting a promo in the ring as if we were on Raw or SmackDown, and he would have us walk around the ring, and he would tell us, like, the ring is your canvas. You don't have to stand in the middle. You can go there. You can go here. You can walk there. You just, as long as you're aware of where the camera is, you can go anywhere within this frame to make it your own. And, he had all these tricks. To him, it was very important that a promo doesn't sound like a promo. So that really helped me as well. I only got to work with Dusty for 10 months. Between the time I showed up at the Performance Center and then the time I got called up on the road, and then, about a month later, he passed away. But, man, the time I had with Dusty is invaluable, and, I'm so thankful for it. I was fortunate to learn from a lot of people, throughout my career, but nobody made as much of an impact in such a short time on me as Dusty did. So, a lot of the credit for that, for the promos goes to him for sure.
Well, as a quick aside, this will drop on a Friday, and October 12th is Dusty's birthday. So happy birthday to Big Dust. And I always do a bad Dusty impersonation on the show because I love Dusty. And it's pretty much every week I try it. And it's gotten a little better. It's gotten a little better. But, we hear that a lot especially with a lot of the people that went through NXT, is that their interactions with Dusty really made a massive difference. And I mean, if you're smart, how can it not? How can you not sit under that really dude's tree?
I don't know who could say that being around Dusty didn't help them. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, it's like you said, it's kind of on them for not being smart enough to learn from that. Who's got an incredible Dusty impersonation, by the way, is Dean Ambrose.
Oh, really?
It's unbelievable. Like when he obviously now he's on Raw and I'm on SmackDown, so I'm not around him much. And then before that, he was on SmackDown and I was on Raw, so I haven't been around him. Got almost a year and a half, 2 years maybe. But anytime he would bust it out when we were on the same brand, it would actually, no joke, make me feel like if you close your eyes, you feel like you're in the room with Dusty. The way he's talking, and I swear it was. I never told Dean this because he probably would have thought it was really weird. But when he would do the Dusty impersonation, it made me feel great because I felt like it was a little bit of Dusty, like it's weird, but man, he's so good. If you guys get him on the podcast, you should have him do it.
I would not have pegged that at all. No. Yeah.
It's really good. And it's not just the voice; it's the way he speaks, and even the stories he tells. Like obviously, he was around Dusty for a lot, So he's got the stories down and everything. It's absolutely fantastic. I like Dean a lot, but it's definitely my favorite thing about him is his Dusty impersonation.
I would like to hear your Dusty impression.
I don't have one. I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't have one. Like Big Cass tries, Sami Zayn's tried, and I just never dared to even try. I don't have one. I'm no good at that. Yeah. I don't even try. I don't try things I won't be good at.
Good call. Yeah. So you mentioned Sami, and we gotta talk about, because again we're recording this before SmackDown, so we don't know what happens tonight and the fallout of the whole Sami Zayn thing. But I'm guessing if people listen to this podcast, they know your history, but let's just give them a brief synopsis of everything that you guys have been through over the years.
Right. Well, we met in I want to say 2002. When I started training for wrestling back home, I was training with Jacques Rougeau, who's known in WWE as the Mountie, and then later on, as part of the Quebecers. And before the Mountie, he was with the fabulous Rougeau brothers with Ray. Mm-hmm. And Jacques and I didn't mesh well. So I trained with him for a couple of years. And the way he would run his company, because he also had a wrestling promotion, he would train people at his school, and then he would put on shows once every 3-4 months in big arenas around Quebec, like, with crowds of like 2,000 people that would come to the shows, which obviously, for an independent wrestling company is pretty good, especially at the time in, 2000.
Sure.
And especially back home in Quebec, like no wrestling, no indie promotion was drawing anything near that. So Jacques felt like because he's putting 2,000-3,000 people in the buildings because of the name value that he had, the Rougeau name carries weight in Quebec, or at least did at the time, in wrestling. He didn't want any of the guys that trained for him and wrestled on his shows to go wrestle anywhere else. So, I couldn't work every week to learn and get experience. I had to stay. And every 4 months I'd get to do one match in front of people. And the rest of the time I would just train, 2-3 times a week. And I would basically rehearse the match that I'm going to do at that big show. I'm going to rehearse that match for months and months on end. So we weren't learning how to work. We weren't learning, we weren't getting the experience we needed. We were just kind of, going through the motions for the way Jacques wanted to do things. But I had no experience, so I had no idea that was the case at the time. In my mind, I was like, okay, this is what I need to do in order to get to WWE one day. But then with time, some of the guys he was training decided to leave and go elsewhere and start exploring what was out there in the independent scene in Montreal. And a lot of those guys ended up in a wrestling promotion called IWS, which was doing shows every month at a bar. But, they had 200 people there. But, man, the atmosphere was great. Everybody that was there to see wrestling and, have fun.
Did I do one of those shows?
Yeah, you did actually. Okay. That's right. Yeah, you came in. By the time you came in, it was kind of. I think it was like 2008 maybe. So it had kind of morphed into something else. But at the time when I went there, it was just part of it. It was just in a very small bar, so they didn't draw that many people. But man, it was a great atmosphere, and it felt like to me like that's what I wanted. The Rougeau shows, it's nice in front of 2,000 people, but the way they react, it feels like there's less people in the building than those 200 crazy people in that bar, and I felt like wrestling every month, every week is what I needed to do to gain experience at the time. Sure. And so I went to the IWS show to see the guys that I trained with wrestle, and that's when I met Sami Zayn, because he was wrestling there. He had trained, in somebody's backyard, and he started setting up rings left and right for various independent promotions to try to get booked. And, he started wrestling there, and that's how we met. Eventually, I ended up leaving Rougeau's company or whatever because we just didn't get along. It was time for me to go. And once I did that, I started wrestling every single week, everywhere I could. And everywhere I would go, Sami Zayn was there too because he was already wrestling all over the place, And then so we kind of got to know each other there. And then in 2003, 2004, we started wrestling in the U.S. Our name from the IWS, like the IWS name started kind of getting around the U.S. independents, and they wanted IWS guys. And every time they would book IWS guys, it would turn out that they would book me and Sammy together because obviously they needed more than one guy because we had to drive a long distance. So, they would pair us up, and it was always me and him. It wasn't like we chose consciously to go everywhere together. It just kind of happened that way. Yeah. So obviously we got pretty close because we really had no choice. We started traveling the world together in 2004. And,
let's be honest, though. The only way you could truly be friends with Sammy is if you're forced into it.
That seems to be the consensus, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I say that a lot. We're more like brothers and friends because you don't choose your relatives. You're born into a family.
Yeah.
I didn't choose to be friends with Sammy, but it just kind of happened that way. We had to be friends, and we traveled. Like I said, we traveled the world together until 2012 when he got signed to WWE, and I didn't. And that was kind of the first time we were apart in our careers. So, but from we've been our careers were linked since 2003.
So you were saying that he was signed before you. Was there any extra motivation there? Was there obviously, I think when you're talking about being more like brothers than friends, there's obviously you're happy for him, but was there ever any thoughts of, man, am I going to get a shot, or was it just like you were just simply just happy for him?
I was really happy for him, but it was really hard. I remember that night TWG was his last independent that he did where I was as well. He had I think he had one more independent show the next week. But this TWG was the last time, we actually ended up doing a tag team tournament together. So we had 3 matches as a team and everything. And then, he had the big farewell that because everybody knew he was leaving. And, man, that was a really hard night for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I was losing, the guy I travel up and down the road with. And, I shared my frustrations and my positive moments within the industry for 12 years and stuff. So that was rough. But then the thought of not knowing whether or not this would happen for me was also rough, because at the time I was signed to Ring of Honor, and when he got signed, I still had like a year and a half left on my contract. And this is nothing against Ring of Honor, but I never dreamed of being in Ring of Honor. I always dreamed of being in WWE. So when I saw him get that opportunity, and, at the time WWE hadn't reached out to me at all. They had never made contact. I had never spoken to anybody. So I didn't know if they were even interested in me or ever would be interested in me, or I didn't know if I would even be in the position to get that opportunity. But just the fact that he got that opportunity, then capitalized on it and was getting signed, but I couldn't even try. Like, I couldn't even reach out to them and see if I could get a tryout because I was under contract for another year and a half, which felt like a lifetime to me at that point, It was really rough because I was like, man, so now I'm going to have to do indies for at least another year and a half. And at the time, the independent scene was very good to me. And, I got to a point where it took a while, obviously, but I got to a point where I was making a pretty comfortable living just doing independent shows and, selling merch. And I was taking care of my family pretty well just through the independents. And I had so many friends on the independent scene, so many, promotions that I became close with the promoters because they would bring me in every month, and I really enjoyed working for them and everything. So it was a positive experience. But, at one point you just kind of reach a point where you're just kind of ready to move on, and I was ready to move on big time from the independents, just from the grind of carrying your merch everywhere and putting it out before the shows and having to sell it yourself, and then still having to wrestle, and then running back out at intermission to try to sell some more merchandise, and just the grind of, and sometimes not knowing where you're going to sleep that night because the promoter didn't get you the hotel room, or you get picked up by some dude in his, like, tiny car, and you're crammed in for 5 hours. Like, all just the way the independents work out. I did it for a long time. Yeah, I was ready to move on. I was ready to go.
And it's a different
WWE, which is where I always wanted to get to. So to see Sammy, go and get that opportunity and not know if I would ever get it, it was hard for sure. And, it did motivate me. I remember watching, at the time, NXT would air on TV in Canada on Sportsnet, which is the same channel that Raw and SmackDown were playing. Yeah. So I'd see NXT every week, and I'd see Sammy on NXT, and not just Sammy, I'd see Neville, and I'd see guys that Cassius Ohno. I'd see guys that I came up with, that I wrestled with for years, and they were all there, and I wasn't. I was sitting on my couch at home, and it was very frustrating.
Let me ask a question too. You were saying before how you got to a point on indie wrestling where you were able to support your family. You put it out there a lot. How much you enjoy being a father, and how much your family time means to you, and those sorts of things. Was there ever any, before you said you were making a comfortable living, was there any kind of like, oh man, I don't know how much longer I can do this with, a wife and child and these. Or did you have a pretty good support system?
My wife has always been absolutely amazing in supporting me for my career. Like, we've been together for over 10 years now. So when she and I met, I wasn't even in Ring of Honor. I was just doing independence, and I just went to Japan for Dragon Gate for a few months. But I had tried Ring of Honor. We had done a couple shows for them, and it hadn't worked out. So when I met my wife, I really had I wasn't making a living from wrestling. I would wrestle on weekends and work at a gas station during the week, and I was still very much chasing the dream,
Yeah.
But then we met, and, things went pretty quickly. We had our son about, a year after we met. So, I had a family very quickly. Things got serious very quickly. Like, I had to grow up, I couldn't, this working at the gas station and wrestling on the weekend was great if it was just me and her. But then when our son came along, I'm like, man, I got to make sure I can take care of them properly. So I changed jobs. I went from the gas station, because the thing about the gas station that was great is I worked there for like 7-8 years, and the manager there was super supportive of my wrestling. He would give me time off whenever I needed it, to do anything I needed, to go anywhere I needed, but then I wasn't making very much money at the gas station, and at the time, wrestling on the weekends was bringing me next to nothing.
Yeah.
So, I'm there. I have a wife and a kid that I need to take care of. So I changed jobs. I started working at a warehouse, which, wasn't quite as supportive as my wrestling as the gas station was.
Sure.
But I was making more money. So at that point I was thinking, maybe real life is about to take over on the dream. It's time to own up and make sure I'm responsible for this, for my family, and make sure I can take care of them. But then Ring of Honor, something opened up at Ring of Honor again, and I started wrestling for them, and then things kind of started to snowball, and my career started kind of being on the upswing. So I kept going. I kept working every weekday, and then I would get on the road, Friday morning and go wrestle. And my wife, even though, she was a brand new mom, but as you guys know, the kids don't come with there's no parenting, and like there's no instructions on how to do this. She was taking care of a baby by herself, and she was very supportive. But at one point, even with Ring of Honor, especially at a point where after a couple of years, in 2010, Ring of Honor went through a shift in management, and the people that came in and took over kind of decided they wanted to push me out. They weren't me and Sammy both. They weren't fans of ours, and they just felt like we weren't contributing to the product the way that we felt we were, and pretty much every fan watching was into our stuff, but the people in charge weren't. So that at that point, I remember thinking, because I was under contract, they couldn't just kick me out, but they gave me 6 months off, and then it turned into a year off, and it wasn't that much money to them for me to lose. But for me, it was a big deal, the money that I was losing out on by not being able to do Ring of Honor, I needed that money. So at that point, I did feel like maybe it's better to just call it quits and just start a real job or whatever, or just focus on the warehouse as much as I can and try to make as much money as I can and try to advance in that and, just settle into a normal 9-to-5 kind of life. But that was never for me, and my wife knew that. She always, supported me and told me, you need to keep going and you're going to get there. And I did. And her support was instrumental in that, as well as my parents, that were always there and always believed in me from the time I went to them and said, hey, I think I want to be a wrestler. They didn't say, oh, no, that's kind of silly. They're just like, oh, okay, well, they cultivated my interest and they pushed me towards it. So, that support system was really important in me even getting here for sure.
It's so huge. It's so huge because it is one of those things, and I had the same conversation with my mom. It seems and it sounds to everyone else like such a pipe dream. I'm sure it's the same conversation that actors have with their parents or musicians have with their parents, anything, NFL, NHL, whatever it is. But that support is monumental, because if you don't have that, and I'm sure there's people that have made it that don't have it, but God, what a lonely existence. Like at worst, they're always there for you no matter what. And they wanted you to get that shot, to at least have that shot.
Yeah, man, my parents bailed me out financially more times than I can count. When I was wrestling, I just wasn't making enough money to take care of the bills. And, I had my heating shut off at one point at the apartment, and my wife could have easily said, look, I support you, but this is enough now. Our heating's cut off. We don't even have hot water. We can't do this.
And we live in Montreal, so it's not exactly warm.
Yeah, exactly. But she didn't. She never once asked me to stop. She never once told me anything, like that. She, if anything, she always told me, like when people would tell me the way I look isn't right, and I gotta get in better shape and I gotta get better gear, and I don't want to throw names out there, but I had people literally look at me in the eyes, tell me you're never gonna get to WWE the way you are.
Yeah.
She always said the opposite. She's like, no, you can do it. I know you can. You look everywhere you go, you manage to climb to the top. You can do this too. You know, she was always behind me, even when things were really bad. That's you know, that's so important, because if it was the opposite, if my wife came to me and said, "Look, we don't have heat, we don't have hot water, we don't have heating, and we have a son, you can't. It's time to do something. It's time to concentrate on something else." I would have had to do it. You know what I mean? Because she would have been completely right.
Well, maybe that's why she didn't have a problem moving everybody down to Orlando when you went to PC, because at least if your heating got cut off here, you're in Florida.
Man, at the time, so that's the thing, though. You know, by the time that happened, I was making comfortable living, and you know, we weren't in fear of losing our hot water or power. Everything was going pretty well because the independents had kind of exploded. And when I got signed to WWE, I would say, as humbly as I can say a statement like that, I was probably the top independent wrestler in the world as far as you know, compensation and merch sales. You know, so I was doing really, really well. And, you know, it was scary because we were really enjoying our life there. We had our son. We had just had our daughter. We had a brand new baby girl. But, you know, I would be home Monday through Thursday, and then I would leave Friday, come back Sunday, but I was making good money, and, you know, we could just do whatever we wanted during the week and take care of our kids. And we were in a really good place. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, look, I know we have this brand new baby that's just a couple months old, and we have our, you know, at the time we have our 6-7-year-old son, but, look, we're going to move everybody down to Florida, away from our families, away from the support system that's been so important these years, away from her family, because that's another thing. We lived in Montreal. We lived upstairs from her mom's. Her mom's had a duplex, and we lived in the apartment upstairs. So she was right by her family. And I took her away from that. I brought her to Orlando, where she had no one. You know what I mean? And I was, you know, NXT is a full-time job. Like, you're the performance center, you're training, you're going on the NXT shows. I was home one Sunday. I was home one day a week, maybe, because sometimes that day would get taken away by, you know, some sort of special event at the performance center, stuff like that. And she was taking care of 2 kids, one of which was a brand new little baby girl. So it was pretty crazy for her to do that for me, but you know, she's always, like I said, she's always had my back, and I wouldn't have made it without her support and her love, and the kids too. You know, my son's so understanding. You know, he knows, he doesn't even make a peep. You know, he knows that he's got to go to work, and I'll see him in a couple of days, or sometimes it'll be a couple of weeks, but he loves it, and you know, he's. Seeing him enjoy it as much as I do is really cool. And now my daughter, she's 3.5 now, so she's way more aware of when I leave. And sometimes she'll say, "Oh, don't go, Daddy," but I say, "No, I got to go wrestle." She's like, "Oh, okay, go wrestle." You know, and then she gets kind of excited and she likes watching it and stuff. So, yeah, their support means the world, man. You and Adam, you and I talk about, you know, missing our kids when we're not around them. Like, it's just, God, it just makes everything so much harder. But having the support of our spouses and our you know, our wives being so that makes a world of difference.
It does, man. You know, my daughter's the same age as your daughter, and so is Jay's, and it's the hardest part. Leaving is, you know, you can see that they grasp it now, like that you're leaving, and it's, you know, Beth explains to them, and I'm sure your wife explains to them, but there's still that. You're still not there to be able to grab them, pick them up, and hug them and everything. Yeah,
man. Like when things like last week happen in Vegas, you know, like that makes it even harder to me. That, you know, that's the first thing when I hear stuff like that. All I want for comfort is my kids and my wife, and just being with my family and not being around them. That when stuff like that happens, it makes it even harder. I don't know how. Now we have FaceTime and all that stuff, you know, all this technology available to us to keep in touch and at least be able to see them. But I can't imagine, man, like the wrestlers in the 80s and stuff like that who didn't have that stuff and didn't even have cell phones. Like, man, I can't imagine how hard that must have been.
I don't think I would have been able to do it. You know, I wouldn't be able to, like, do what I'm doing now if not. No, me neither. It's definitely thankful for technology. But like you said, with everything with Vegas, like, immediately Papa Bear instinct comes in and go, okay, I want to get everybody and corral them in and just hold them and make sure that they know everything's okay.
for me, it's almost the opposite. I want them to protect me. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I feel like I need their protection and comfort. As weird as that sounds, you know?
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. You know, I want to... Okay, so I'm you, right? And I'm like you, Jay and I, both lifelong wrestling fans. You know, grew up wanting nothing but to do this, discovered it around the same age as you. There's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, we're
all
just
Canadian.
3 Canadian dads who love wrestling. And, yeah. That's really what we are.
It's true. It really is. So you talked about, you know, your wife, your kids, parents, everyone supporting you, your relationship with Sammy through all of this. Now, at what point, or is it you're standing backstage and that package airs? Because Jay and I talked about it before you came on and how great the package was of you and Shane for Hell in a Cell. You're standing backstage, you see that package, you're about to go out, wrestle Shane McMahon after headbutting Vince McMahon, and you're about to stain the unicorn that is Sami Zayn and turn him heel. And you're essentially turning this generation's Ricky Steamboat heel. How does all of that feel? Like, what are you feeling at that point?
It's funny you call Sammy this generation's Ricky Steamboat, because I was told him the one thing he was missing was coming out with a Komodo dragon and breathing fire. So, it's ironic. But, man,
or a karate gi would be awesome too.
That's right.
Tabby boots.
And man, how great would he look in a gi? That would be so good. With the belt could be orange to match his hair too.
Yeah.
Oh man, I want to see that now.
You should now do a vignette with him where you're now training him to be more like a heel. You should have him fight a bunch of ninjas like Steamboat did.
Like Steamboat did.
In a gi.
Well, you know, when people go through this turn, there's like a transition, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes they change looks, stuff like that. I think that's the way for him to go. So
I think so.
Yeah,
we'll start
orange
working
belt.
towards that. So
Yeah, because he's not even good. That's the thing. He's an orange belt.
Well, I guess it's not one of the top ones.
No.
So I wasn't really thinking about Sammy's thing at all, man. I was, I don't know if you guys saw, but I tweeted out this video that WWE Digital, you know, put out on WWE.com. This guy named Joey kind of followed me around for the day before and the day of the show, and just kind of got my thoughts and, you know, what I was thinking, what I was going through as I was getting ready for the match. And it's really, really good. There's some really great people on that WWE Digital team that put out some really great content on the website. And, you know, I tweeted out that link. It's like 6 minutes, but it really captures my varying moods throughout the day. You know, like there's peacefulness and quietness and like this quiet excitement and this kind of just pondering and going through everything in my head. And then at one point I'm like more hyped, and I didn't even realize it as I was talking to him. But as I'm watching the video yesterday, I was like, man, I was getting really riled up at that point. And
Yeah.
I guess that's really kind of what it came to. And then, you know, when it was about time, like the show started and I was watching, you know, the TV in the locker room and they had the video package, and that's always a great way to get real pumped up, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Because they do such a great job with those. Like I remember WrestleMania 32 was my first WrestleMania. We were first match, and I watched the package from the gorilla position. Man, I was losing my mind by the time it ended. I was so fucking ready to bust through that curtain and just go, you know? Anyway, so then it's kind of the same thing. Hell in a Cell, I watched the package. I'm super pumped. I'm really like, I can't wait, but I have a couple hours to go before I'm out there. And then, you know, the anticipation just builds, and then the video package for the match with Shane airs, and I'm in Gorilla, and then, you know, that they start dropping the cell and that ominous music, you know, that they it just really does something to you. By the time I walked through that curtain, I was so ready to just, you know, I knew we had to go inside the cage, but I was ready to just go up there right away. You know what I mean? I was just like, let's just start at the top, man. Let's just go wild, you know?
Yeah.
It was just, I was just so excited, dude. Like, I watched countless of the Hell in a Cell matches. I remember the first one. I remember pretty much every one of them. I'm just, so again, like I said, I never lost that sense of being a fan. So to be in a Hell in a Cell match on its own, like last year I was in Hell in a Cell, but we weren't the main event, but it still felt amazing to just be in a Hell in a Cell match and be able to say, man, I was in a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
This year, it was headlining the show. It was the focal point of the show, and it was a proper Hell in a Cell match. Like, we broke through the cell. We ended up on top. There was crazy stuff left and right. It felt great to be part of the spectacle that Hell in a Cell can be. And, obviously you're in there with Shane McMahon. People have high expectations because he's insane. That's been well documented. So, man, it was just such a rush. I can't even, the adrenaline didn't wear off for hours. I was up till 6 a.m. Even though I was exhausted like the night before. I talk about it a little bit in that video that's on YouTube there that WD Digital put out. My parents flew in for the show. And, so I was waiting for them, and the hotel room I booked the hotel was oversold because there's a football game in Michigan or in Detroit, and then I didn't get into my room until 5 a.m. And then my parents came in at 8 a.m. and their room wasn't ready, so I ended up sleeping on the ground for 4 hours because obviously I'm not going to let my parents. So the night before headlining this pay-per-view, I was sleeping on the ground, and I slept for 3-4 hours, and that's all I had. I was really exhausted. Then I went through the match, and I'm sore and I'm hurting, and I still couldn't go to bed that night until 6 a.m. the next day because the adrenaline, when I climbed on that cell and I looked down, and then Shane went up and we started fighting on there, the adrenaline was I don't know how to describe the amount of adrenaline you get, but it was just so overwhelming that it didn't wear off for several hours after. It was just such a rush. It's really hard to put into words.
What I love about that story is that, a lot of people have this misconception that WWE superstars and, it's this live like rock stars where we're partying on buses or whatever. No, you sleep on the floor the night before. And yes, you've been Universal Champion. We talked about that, but this was your biggest match. Yeah. As much as you've done everything almost there is to do, this was the biggest match so far. And you're sleeping on the floor the night before your biggest match.
I mean, and I'm sure some. I don't know if other guys would have. Maybe other guys would have reacted differently and put up a huge fight at the front desk to get the room and all this stuff. Because I basically got screwed, and I wasn't the only one. There was 50 people in that lobby all waiting for their rooms, and it wasn't happening. I was lucky enough to get one room. I didn't have the two rooms. I had one room with one king bed. But my parents were coming in a few hours later, so I'm well, I'm not going to make my parents sleep on the ground. So to me, the only option. So I also called the front desk to get a little rollaway bed brought in, and they're like, yeah, no problem. And then it never came. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess the ground is. But you know how many times I slept on the ground throughout my independent career? It was, back then it wasn't even a thought there's 4 guys in the same room. Well, this little nook over here next to the TV cabinet seems pretty nice, and that was it. That was my spot. So I don't know if other guys that didn't go through the independent scene and just that kind of grind might have reacted differently. But to me, it wasn't really a big deal. Even my parents you can't sleep on the ground. You've got this match tonight. Yeah. Well, no, there's nothing else we can do. My dad, I'll just sleep in this chair. I'm like, no.
You made it.
I'll be fine.
You made it because I'm sure the carpet in that room was much cleaner than the ones that you slept on in the independent.
Yes, that's actually that's a fact. I remember one specific hotel room in Houston on a WrestleMania weekend. Ring of Honor was running there, so we were there. But the hotel they got us was, first of all, they waited too long, so they got the worst hotel. They got what was left, and what was left was terrible. Sleeping on the ground of that particular room was a challenge in itself. It was an adventure in itself because the first, I remember walking into that room, it was in 2009. First thing I saw when I walked into that room was a cockroach run across the floor. That literally we just walked in. And the guys that did sleep in the bed slept on top of the blankets, fully clothed. It was just bad. Yeah. But yes, the Marriott at the Detroit airport has a wonderful, nice, clean carpet. It's kind of thick too, so it wasn't too bad. And I was even able to tell my parents no, it's better if I sleep on the ground anyway for my back. And they bought
keep my back aligned.
They bought the lie no problem because the carpet. The carpet's not that bad. I'm like, I'm good.
It's funny. I became kind of a hotel snob when I got on the road with WWE
Kind of.
because I'd slept in so many crappy hotels in my career early on, and
Yeah.
my rule was if I couldn't take my socks off in the hotel, I wouldn't stay there. And
It seems reasonable to me.
yeah, right. So I remember this
but
one
here's
time
my
we
question: how did you test that theory? Like, did you go in, take your socks off, go, no, not happening
no,
here,
I would go in
and leave?
I would walk in the room, and if it was sufficient, and if it wasn't, I would go back and I would check out. I'd be like,
But how could you tell if you? So you went in, you took your shoes and your socks off, is what you did.
No, I could tell by looking at it, and also
Yeah,
with
he
one
was-
of those,
it's
also
a-
with one of
it's
those
a visual-
flashlight
it's a-
things.
it's a
I
visual
carried one of those lights. But I remember this one time we were traveling and we were in somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Saskatchewan. And we were driving. We were late at night. It was me, Tommy Dreamer, and I can't remember who. Somebody else was riding with us, and so we were in the middle of nowhere, and we stopped. And we're like, there was like this little hotel, and it was the only thing that had a vacancy, and it was like one of the old indie motels with the rooms on the outside. It was this crappy motel with like blinking lights outside, and it was the only motel, and it was like $159 a night. That shows you how there was no other hotels around. So I get in this room, and I walk in, and it's so dirty, and it's like got like wood paneling on the walls, and I was like, oh my god, my sock rule is not happening tonight. I pulled the sheets down, and there was kind of like stains on the sheets, and then I was like, oh my god, I'm just gonna have to sit in this chair and sleep in the chair. But then there was like stains on the chair, and then I opened the curtains, and there was a graveyard behind the motel, and I was like, I'm out of here. And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning because we're driving, and there's nowhere else to go, and Tommy had the keys to the car, so I couldn't even sleep in the car. So I took a pillow, I wrapped some T-shirts that I already had around the pillow, so I wasn't touching the actual material of the pillowcase. I put my own T-shirts around it, and I slept on the hood of the car outside this motel somewhere in Saskatchewan as a WWE superstar.
Well, let me ask you this now. That's as glamorous as it gets. But once you use the T-shirts as the pillowcase, did you wear the T-shirts later?
No, I threw them. No, they were like gym shirts, so I threw them out.
Okay, because I was going to say then you just welcome the disgustingness and dirtiness of the pillowcase onto your body, and it just made everything worse.
I think I just threw the whole thing back in the room and left.
Yeah, T-shirts included.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the sacrifices that your family made and your foundation and all of that made. They're able to be there. How good do you think they feel? And is there's got to be that part of you that goes, all right, thank you. Like, look at what's happened because of what you guys have all sacrificed over the years. Yeah,
man. Like that's, obviously a big part of making the WWE money is saving the WWE money for the days. But I will say this, I dragged my wife through 10 years of hard times and pretty modest living because I was chasing this dream, and she always had my back, like I said, and my parents, like I mentioned earlier, bailed me out a lot when I needed them, always actually. Whenever I needed them, they were there. So saving is obviously a big thing on my mind, but also I spoil my family. I try to give my wife and my kids and my parents, anything they need and they want, because without them, like I said, I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't be here. And that's a very rewarding thing, is to be able to, like my wife would talk about things and dream of these things, and she never in her wildest dream thought we'd get to have those things, and now I'm able to give them to her, and it's so great. Like I can't put, like, that's the best feeling to get to give back to them for them believing in me. You know what I mean? And then to take them along to the shows. My wife would drive with me back in the day for 8-9 hours. Me and Sammy, she'd drive with us to go to Ring of Honor, and she'd stay with me at the crappy hotel, and she'd come to the show and watch us wrestle in front of like 300-400 people, and now she gets to come to WrestleMania, and she gets to come to SummerSlam and the big ones, because obviously, we can't take my son out of school all the time as much as I wish I could, take them to every pay-per-view. We just can't, but she comes to the bigger shows, and it's always so great to have her there and to be able to share that with her. And, my parents will come here and there as well. Like, they flew to Detroit for Hell in a Cell, and, my dad and my mom are so, like, that was an important part of getting to WWE too, was I wanted to get there just so I could tell my parents that everything they did for me was worth it, because look, I made it. So to be able to see how proud it makes them and share that with them too, it just makes everything, just being in WWE on its own is really, the culmination of a career. And, then the career you get to have in WWE is like almost like just a bonus, especially considering things are going so well for me. It's really great. But to get to share that with my wife and my kids and share it with my parents, it just makes everything so much more meaningful, man. It's a very special feeling.
Well, it's going to be hard to hate you after listening to this. People are going to be like, man, I don't want to hate that dude. I don't like him. He's a good dude.
A lot of the natural hatred that people have for me comes from the fact that I'm Canadian, yes, but I'm French Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow that really brings out a whole other level with people for some reason. I don't see why. I think French Canadian people are wonderful, but
well, me
I
too.
know that works to my advantage when we're looking for people to dislike me somehow.
Well, I know you got to go to work today. You got to follow up on Hell in a Cell, so we don't want to keep you. But you said something interesting. You said chasing the dream to get there. Here's my mentality on it, and take it for what you will, and I'll keep sending you texts and direct messages when I see stuff and everything, but keep treating it like you're chasing the dream. And then that way,
right,
you'll always be churning, man. You'll always be doing what you've been doing. And it's when you reach the top, that's when that's when you got to find that gear. And I always found if you keep treating it like you're chasing the dream, then you will, just naturally.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and I can actually assure you that that's kind of the case, because my DVD came out recently, which is crazy. They already made a Kevin Owens DVD. Like, that's wild in itself. That was also
Jay still can't get one.
Nope.
Oh, boy.
Never had one. It's my goal, and I've talked about it before. My goal was to be the only superstar that never got his own DVD.
After 20 years, still never got his own.
It's your goal not to have one now.
Yes.
Oh, well, then, that's
Mission
cool. You
accomplished.
got to tell people not to, yeah. Well, I mean, you just got to keep people, keep telling people don't do it. And then eventually, I feel like soon enough, DVDs will just become obsolete technology, and then you're safe, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, that's when I'll get it.
You know what they'll do? They'll do a
this
Christian
DVD
laser disc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they can bring back the VHS tape for you, so you still get the gratification having one made about your career, but nobody can watch it.
Yeah.
So you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point I was about to make is that in that DVD, one of my really close friends, Chris Scoville, who's known in wrestling as Jimmy Jacobs, who worked with me in WWE behind the scenes, he talks about how my drive and my obsession with getting higher and higher is a blessing and a curse, because it's kind of what keeps me going. But I'm also kind of never satisfied. I think that chasing the dream aspect of it that you just told me about is, I'm never gonna. I don't think it's just my personality. I'm never gonna be able to not do that. Even when I'm at the top and I should be happy, I still feel like things could be better.
Well,
you know what I mean? So
I can only put it in personal terms, but I mean,
be satisfied when you're retired.
I was never satisfied either. I think that's just something that it's a self-motivation tool that certain people use, and maybe there are some people, like you said earlier, getting to WWE is just one thing. Maybe getting to WWE is okay for some people, but for the guys that really step up and get to the top, that's not enough.
Keep tearing it up and be satisfied when you retire, like I said, and we'll be watching. I'll keep sending you motivational texts and direct messages here and there.
They really mean a lot. It's always great to hear from you guys. And whenever you guys come around, it's always such a blast to get to share a bit of time with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Hopefully you slept on the floor last night to get your back in line after that.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I slept in bed all night. I gotta realign my back now. Enough of this comfy crap.
All right, man. Thanks again for joining us. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
See you, buddy. Thanks, Kev. So that was great.
Yeah, really good.
Really good conversation. You know what's great about Kevin is we didn't need to ask him anything. He just started going and answered all of the stuff that I was already going to ask him.
He rocket-strapped himself.
He rocket-strapped himself. You're damn right he did.
Yeah, he didn't need the strappers. He strapped himself.
Man, he strapped himself in. He just
didn't even see it coming.
Man.
No, but very enlightening. Good to get his kind of take on everything, not just on the recent, obviously huge deal, headbutting Vince in the face, the Hell in a Cell with Shano Mac, but his relationship with Sami Zayn, his family, his kids, his parents. The road that he took to get to where he is, and sometimes we lose sight of the fact that the long journey that some people take, the unconventional journey in some senses, makes you appreciate where he's at now.
Yeah, it really does, and you get a sense from the guys and the girls who grew up as lifelong fans, and whether your job as a fan is to boo them or cheer them, I think it's easier to react to someone that is just like you in terms of just being a fan of the product and the industry, and we can get jaded and we can complain about this, that, and the other as an audience member, but at the end of the day, we're all fans of this really cool thing, and it's refreshing to hear somebody who's at the top of the industry right now and still maintains that.
Yeah. And you can usually pick out the performers, guys or girls, that were huge fans, lifelong fans. There's something different about them. You can usually pick them out. So, and you never stop being a fan. That's a cool thing, right? Like all these things are happening to you, and you're a fan. Like I remember being backstage, and certain guys would come up that you grew up watching and idolizing, and then you're kind of geeking out in your own mind, like, oh my God, I can't believe that this person knows who I am. We're talking and the whole thing, and you never stop being a fan, and that's the cool thing about this business. It allows you to be a fan while doing it.
Yeah. Yep. And good stuff. Hell in the Cell, him and Sammy going forward would be interesting to see what they do. Like I said, he's staying the unicorn. It's the equivalent of Morocco and Fuji turning Steamboat, and instead of doing what it was, a dragon pit match that him and Morocco always had. What was it?
I can't wait
to dojo match.
I can't wait to see him in that karate gi with the orange belt,
and also ninja tabi boots with the karate gi. I think would really be the kind of the bow on that.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be like the taxi driver checker type gi.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Do they make those?
I don't know. You can probably have one custom made. Owens is making some big coin now. Just said it.
Yeah, right. Right.
Maybe he's gonna treat Sammy too.
Just get that shit made.
Yeah. So he owes him one.
Well,
put him
again,
on the table.
Great talk. It was good to catch up with him. One of the guys. I feel like, honestly, when I go back, I feel like Sean used to with us, how he'd try and find us and sit down and just talk about family and life and everything. I feel like Kevin is one of those guys when I go back that I find and do that. So it comes full circle, Bird.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
It's it's the circle of life.
Yeah.
You know
what would be good for me? If he slapped your ass. That'd work out well.
Now you want other people to slap my ass. So weird. So weird. On a completely different note, Mick Foley is having his auction live October 17th.
Yes.
Hashtag Wrestlers for Puerto Rico. You have donated. I will be donating. Beth and I will be donating. So all kinds of other people donating. Go on Mick's Twitter. It's at Real Mick Foley. You can get all of the deets there.
Amazing idea that Mick came up with, and he's a good soul, good person, good heart, and always likes to help people. So,
and Puerto Rico needs help.
Yeah. So basically, what it is it's going to be an auction where some of the top wrestling stars from all corners will be hopefully donating items to Mick, and he will auction them off with all proceeds going to help the people.
There's you, Seth Rollins, myself, Beth. I mean, there's a lot of people from all different parts of the industry that are already jumping in to donate stuff. So hop on there, go on his website, Real McFoley. It goes live October 17th. So gotta mention that, and I gotta figure out what I'm gonna send. But keep an eye peeled, folks.
Yeah, with all proceeds going to help the people of Puerto Rico that were devastated by the recent hurricane. So it's a great cause. So make sure you check out that auction.
And I think, Bird, it's time. It's time to take it home. It's time to jump off the cell. It's time to drop that elbow and take it on home.
Ooh, we got to take it home now, Edge. As they say in the business, we got to take it home. Ooh, Lance is out there pulling on his tie, brother. Oh, he's about to throw the pet sledge. Here we go.
It's time to go wine and dine with some kings and queens, baby. Happy birthday, Big Duff.